state, but let's get on down to New York City. What you got to say about Giuliani? Because when Giuliani was mayor of New York City, I was living across the bridge in Englewood, New Jersey. And the way that he handled certain things that went on when the man was shot 42 times, and the whole beating of the Haitian and all of that, how he never acknowledged the mothers, and then how he did such so-called a wonderful job of
he did no wonderful job.
That myth, can we dispel that myth? Can you give some insight to Giuliani? Because I predicted back when he was mayor that he would be running for president. And they seem to be entertaining this on the Sunday morning political talk shows. Could you give us a little insight into Giuliani?
Let's talk about Giuliani. Now, what we know is that his father was a mafioso. His father was a member of organized crime. That is now documented and then conceded by him. I would say that his mentality can only be described as fascist. And it could be that Mussolini was an important figure in the family back in the 1930s or 1940s.
His family or the family?
In the Giuliani family, that Mussolini was held in high regard, because I don't know if there's any other way to do it. He has a history, Giuliani has a history of trying to sue people who are his critics. Even as mayor, he repeatedly tried to go to court against people. As mayor, he attempted to run the city of the rich, by the rich, and for the rich. There's a famous case of the sidewalk artists who were persecuted because Giuliani thought they were interfering with the posh boutiques of Fifth Avenue. Mm-hmm. And of course, the police brutality that you mentioned is notorious. But now and of course, Giuliani comes from a background in the Justice Department. I attacked him already in the 1980s as an administrative fascist. In other words, somebody who was part of a clique that they wanted to impose top-down police state totalitarian rule. 9/11. There are a number of things to be said about 9/11. One thing is that Giuliani was running a drill called Tripod 3, which was a biological weapons drill, which involved the use of a pier in the Hudson River. And there's a very interesting question whether parts of 9/11 were bootlegged or conduited through Tripod as a part of the overall picture, because we know from the broader research that 9/11 in general, using government assets, was run through legally sanctioned drills like Amalgam Virgo, Global Guardian, Vigilant Warrior, Vigilant Guardian, Global Vigilance, and stuff like this. So we have about 15 drills that bear on 9/11. Now, Giuliani says he had his base of operations, his headquarters, in Building 7. In the morning, he was told, sometime 11 o'clock to noon, or perhaps a little bit earlier, he's told, you should leave your headquarters. And he says this in an interview. I was told to leave my headquarters because the Twin Towers were coming down. This is early in the day. So before the two towers have come down, Giuliani is in Building 7, and he's told to leave. And he says, we were told the towers were about to come down. Now, why weren't the firemen and the policemen told that the Twin Towers were going to come down? How can Giuliani come forward and say, I was told the two towers were going to collapse? What about those poor people who were in there, who were told to stay there? The Port Authority told them to stay there. And the firemen died in large numbers, and the policemen, and the Port Authority policemen, and so forth. So he's told to save himself, and they're not. And then we get to the really serious question, the crime scene. 9/11, the Twin Towers, is a crime scene. The North Tower, the South Tower. Building 7 is also a crime scene. Everybody forgets about Building 7, where he had his headquarters that came down at 5:30 in the afternoon, even though it is a couple of hundred yards from either of the towers, was not damaged when they came down, was not hit by an airplane, did not have any big fires. It came down in what's obviously controlled demolition at 5:30 in the afternoon, and everybody was told, even sitting in Berlin, Germany, I was told through CNN, Building 7 is about to collapse. Now, why is it about to collapse? There's no fire, there's no airplane. Why should it? It's a 45, 47-story building. In most cities of the world, it would be the biggest building in town. Okay, this is all suspicious. Now, what does Giuliani do? If you've had a plane crash, that comes under NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board. Once a plane has crashed, if you touch any piece of that wreckage, that's a felony.
Okay.
That's a federal felony. You're not allowed to.
Okay.
What does Giuliani do? Giuliani says, forget about all that. Violate all federal laws. He's a former federal prosecutor. He knows what he's doing. He says, violate the federal laws. To hell with the federal laws. We're going to grab all of the debris. We're going to ship it to Fresh Kills on Staten Island. And what he's doing here is a cynical idea, because the firemen are concerned about the human remains of their friends who are in here. Maybe I'm more of a New Yorker than other people who've written about 9/11. My uncle was a New York City policeman, my uncle. So I'm concerned about the firemen and the policemen in New York. And what Giuliani does is, first of all, he destroys the crime scene, but then to cover that, he plays the firemen against the policemen. The firemen say, go slow. We want the bodies of our comrades. The policeman, he goads the policeman to get into fights with the firemen. He arranges, it looks to me, he fakes these discoveries of fire trucks filled with stolen merchandise to try to demonize the firemen. And then on, I guess it's October 31st or November 1st of 2001, he gets what he wants, which is the brawl, the riot, with the policemen and the firemen going at it. In other words, a brawl, a big punch-out between these two groups. And he is able to sit above this. So he is a cynical, operative, evil to the core, knows exactly what he's doing. He is a figure of the invisible government. He is a September criminal. He should not be president of the United States. He ought to be in jail.